go back inside, square myself up. I've got a button that just squares ourselves up. Inside, we've got a couple of options which were on the last update. We can make some of the instruments disappear. We can change some of the instruments to a different layout if you would like that layout. Back to where it was. As usual, if you wanted to take the doors off, open, close the doors, both sides obviously the same. Let me just put my VR controller on my holder and look round at the inside of this thing, because it is just so good. I still haven't done the update on my longer controller, so I'm still on the X52 and the springs are on, so we'll see how we do today. Right, let's get airborne, a little bit left pedal, a bit of forward on this one for me, and just a little gradual turn. And I'm using the Oculus mirror. Still experimenting with it, because I never used to like it, because it never used to show the feet moving around, and it was more like a head tracking unit, a bit like my old sim racing days when I had a head tracking unit and 3 monitors, and you know, that was the best you could get at the time. It was great, but you know, when you're running a VR headset, I do miss that depth, which is why so many of my videos, especially those ones you see, and I've got all the logos up there and the pictures just in the middle, is because I want to see the whole view, top to bottom. So what I was planning on doing was having a little fly around and maybe just describe briefly you know, the on and offs and the left and right tails, and trying to keep the nose going forward without picking up too much speed. So we'll head out this way, we go round this tree, I take a little bit of collective off, bank it over, and then put the collective back on as a sort of brake to help pull it round in the turn, nose down, left foot pedal, collective off, push the nose down, collective comes back on, head out towards that tree again. Using the inertia of the helicopter a bit more, bank it over, collective off, and then nose forward, collective on, square up with your feet, get the tail in the right position, and a nice run, collective off, and then we get it on, nose down, try and get the tail square, or square in a straight line, run it down the middle as you can, gone off a bit there, not very good. Can do better, I think. And then we'll run out over the car park towards the river. And in fact, when I describe to people to pop round and maybe have a look at what I'm doing, and you know, I just love the low level stuff. And I'm not quite there with this yet. You know, the Huey with its big mass is just so smooth to fly. You're sort of aiming the nose up and down, and it does pretty much smooth out all the turns, everything that you need. With these smaller helicopters, you're flying more by the seat of your pants. And the way I'm going to describe it is a bit like when I was sim racing. You know, you hit an apex there, push the nose down, we go wide there, we're looking for the inside corner there, collective on, push the nose forward, but just pull enough on to keep it out of the water. Go for the apex on that one, and this is going to be a sharper turn, so we take the collective off, and then as it banks over, pull it back on. That helps pull the helicopter round. You're still using your feet an awful lot. Get the nose round, try and get it to the outside right hand edge here because it's a sharpish turn. Bank it over, bring it in. And there are all the things that you do when you're sim racing, you know, in a river or a confined area. You want to make sure you're on the right hand side and you've got enough space to get it in, even though I might be cutting a few corners here. Collective off, and then bank it over, and then pull the collective on to sort of help pull it round using your feet. Here we're going to go out left, bank it over, take some collective off, and then pull it on to help tighten it up. Sharp turn, bank it over, collective off, and then on, nose down, try and pick some speed up. It's a balancing act all the way. I can always remember when I first started flying radio controlled helicopters, and the guy who was teaching me from the local model shop said, you know, imagine that you've got a tray with a ball bearing on it and you're holding it from underneath, and you've got to keep it in a tiny little circle, and you want it to go forward. You move the ball bearing forward on the tray, but you know, other forces come in. You can't just do one thing. We can't go forward without using our feet to balance the towel. So you just try and use the inertia and smooth things out. So we're going here, I'm not straight, I should be. A bit more collective, nose up, so I'm going a bit too quick I think for that. There's some trees here, let's have a bank round this tree. So I'm going to bank it round, take the collective off, bank, and then put the collective on, look at the nose, full left pedal there, bank it over, full right pedal and collective on. I'm not going to make that turn there, that's too tight. And you know, you've got this disc that's going round above your head, and if it was on full collective all the time, the loads that the disc would go through would be too much. You certainly wouldn't be smooth. It is possible to do a gentle flight like this, keeping it pretty much in the middle. I'm going to keep it middle of the river as well. I'm just using my feet. I've not changed the collective at all. I am using the nose up and down a bit. But I do find that to get these very sharp turns or whatever there, I've taken the collective off. I'll wait for it to come round. Now it's back on again. Balance it out with your feet. Get a straight line. Go for that gap over there. We'll just touch the skids, I think, there. Follow the edge on the outside of the river here. It's a great way, I mentioned in the last video, of not only, you know, learning low level flight, but learning that trying to keep or maintain a constant speed forward without the nose coming up too high and you losing that inertia, and also just making sure your feet are working when you do the bank. Here we're putting right foot on, collective on, straighten up, nose down, bank it over, collective off, but right foot on again, collective on. Keep this collective on this one because I want to tighten this turn up, bank it right over and down. So only a little fly around and a verbal description, more like racing cars really. But in a confined area, trying to think ahead. You just can't keep the collective on in one place all the time. You need to be balancing your feet with every move that you do if you want it to keep straight, which isn't easy because you do tend to forget. And using the Abby tab for me as a gauge on height in the distance, I would say. It gives me a good clue as to I'm not looking down there at the skids all the time. I judge the height from where something on the dashboard is on the horizon, and you gradually build a feel up for getting lower and lower. And I'm not there yet with this Cicare. It's a little bit as I mentioned earlier, seat of your pants. But I think if I play around with the curves just a little bit on the collective, it will make the transitions a lot smoother from taking the collective off and then putting it on again. So here we are back at Shoreham. Mentioned in the text that in my RC days I used to do a thing called the Schluter Cup that all the radio control guys used to go and do here, go over to Germany and different countries to do it, and it was silly games. It was knocking cones off tables with your radio control model, picking things up with the skids, and then you'd have two big poles that you had to fly through forward, then backwards, then sort of figure eight type thing with a helicopter. And it would be lovely if somebody made something up to sort of knocking over cones or landing on a table or doing something for these small helicopters. It would teach a great deal of skill as in helicopter control, and also a few benches or pallets laid around you. You've got to go around them all, a bit bumpy there, within a certain time period. So a sort of games area where you've got a bench, it's got a cone on it, you've got to knock the cone over, get to the next bench, knock the cone over, so on. Then you've got 4 pallets that you've got to land on within a certain time. That would be the equivalent of the radio control Schluter Cup. Now I did include a link in the YouTube written blurb of some old film of the Schluter Cup. It's not very good, but it gives an idea of sort of the mad things we used to do. But the helicopter control that it gave us was phenomenal in some respects. You had people that flew scale, and you had people like me that enjoyed the Schluter Cup, the competition stuff, and the 3D flying, the inverted and the backwards and all that. That was what I was into. And it would be great to have a sort of fun area for these little helicopters with just a clock that starts, and you've got a certain time period to knock over all the cones, land on 4 pallets, well beyond anything I can do, but I'm just throwing it out there. As usual, the Cicare, fantastic. I say there is another update coming. I find it hard to believe how it can be improved. I absolutely love flying it. If you haven't pressed the subscribe button on my channel, please do so. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.